On behalf of VMUG, I'd like to welcome you to today's webcast, Navigating Operations, Cloud and Workload Strategies with Converged and Hyperconverged Infrastructure, presented by Shannon Champion, Director, CI and HCI Product Marketing with Dell Technologies. Thank you for participating in today's webcast and for your continued support in the Global VMUG program. Before we begin, I have 3 quick housekeeping items to go over. First, today's webcast will be recorded and available for you on demand. You will receive a follow-up email with the on-demand link, so keep an eye out for that. Second, a Q&A session will follow today's presentation. All questions will need to be entered in the questions window near the bottom of your GoToWebinar screen. Third, there will be a short online evaluation that pops up as you exit the webcast. Please make sure to take a minute and let us know what you thought of today's session and what you might like to see moving forward. Attendees from today's webcast who opted in at registration will be entered into a drawing to win a Nintendo Switch Lite. A representative from Dell will email the winner following the webcast today. So good luck. All right, let's get started. Shannon, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks everybody for joining today's VMUG. As Nick mentioned, my name is Shannon Champion, and I have been on a few VMUGs in the past, so if you are returning, nice to be presenting to you again. We have a rich set of subject matter experts from Dell Technologies that are ready to answer your questions for Q&A. So please bring them and put them in the question panel like Nick said. And we want to make this as interactive and lively as we can by answering your questions as we go along. But here we go. So today, I wanted to take the time and introduce you to the Dell Technologies integrated system portfolio of converged and hyperconverged systems. They're all deeply integrated with VMware and really talk about the outcomes of using these systems to address some of the biggest challenges that our businesses face. Before we get into sort of the speeds and feeds, so I will put a little bit of that in later, but I really wanted to take a few minutes to kind of maybe get you to think about today's challenges in infrastructure and even cloud a little bit differently. So getting started, the first challenge is about the growing cost of the data center operations. If you attended the VMUG that I presented at before, we really talked about this environment that we're in where operations being one of the things that keeps our IT administrator customers up at night. All parts of the organization, all the stakeholders internally, as well as your external customers are really relying on IT now more than ever. And that means data centers are growing. There's more to manage, more equipment, more servers, more networking, more storage. And as you add equipment, obviously the complexity of the data center grows linearly along with it, and you end up in this complex environment where the operating costs can get out of control. In fact, we have data that shows that the cost of operations is growing faster than hardware investment, and it's significantly faster. So we all, I think, understand and know that IT operations headcount can't possibly keep up with this pace of cost of operations and the complexity that it brings. So, how do you go about managing that complexity in the data center? If you don't rein in the costs, it impacts everybody, not just the IT systems administrators, but it affects all of their customers, the application developers, their VMware administrators, their cloud service architects, all of the lines of businesses that IT is expected to support. So it basically impacts anyone who just is really looking for the compute and storage and networking to run their business without really having to think or to worry about it. So we've talked about this concept of digital transformation, and it's really been at the crux of a lot of the growth driving data center modernization and has been our silver bullet, if you will, for how to overcome complexity. When you think about digital transformation, we've seen estimates that show by 2022, so not that long into the future, an IDC study actually shows that about 60% of the global GDP will be digital by 2022. So in order to survive, all organizations have to start completely rethinking how they're engaging with their customers, partners, vendors, employees in a completely digital way and with limited contact. So over the past 5 or 6 months, all of you likely, we have been forced to really rethink all of our strategies in marketing, which is where I live. We've had to completely think about a new digital environment of how are we going to connect with our customers when we can't go to VMworld and talk to them face to face. How do we launch new products in a completely digital way? And that sort of mentality extends across all parts of organizations and businesses that are trying to run. So every corner of the business needs new digital applications, needs new digital services, and it's just the reality of the pandemic situation has just added more pressure to accelerate digital transformation. And we're finding that those customers that were farther down their journey have been able to react much quicker than those that haven't, but everyone now has it top of mind. So let's see. Oh, there's some innovations I failed to to hit up here, but what I was basically talking about, right? Like you're getting demand and requirements from developers, new workloads, new users. It's touching every corner of the business. There's massive requirements, which means more infrastructure is going to be required, and it all needs to be done with limited human interaction. So with that, we have embedded a few polls into the presentation today to try and keep this a little more interactive. So Nick, I'd like to put the first poll up, which is really trying to understand and relate to which of these are top of mind for your organization. All right, looks like about 60% of you have weighed in, so let's share the results, Nick. Okay, so all of these are really resonating with most of you. With some of you, one of the elements sort of rises above but it looks pretty dead on between resource constraints, new infrastructure requirements, and new demands from developers, workloads, and that kind of thing. Thank you for participating. So in order to deliver on this digital transformation, what does it mean from an IT perspective? So from a data center operations and resources viewpoint, it means IT has to reevaluate which tasks it's going to focus on. There's not unlimited time in the day. There's not unlimited resources in terms of manpower. So you're going to have to prioritize. So here's a few of the fundamental tasks. And what we're finding is that our customers are really breaking these down into two main categories. They're can spend time and energy on building the infrastructure themselves related to racking and stacking, coordinating the equipment, managing the interoperability of the firmware of the stack, coordinating with multiple vendors on support calls, or really trying to plan for upgrades with testing, researching, all that kind of thing. Or they can spend time on tasks related to consuming infrastructure. So creating new applications and services, really making it easier for the whole value chain of stakeholders to use them. Now, we could have put a trillion little bubbles in here. You guys can tell me all the different tasks that IT has to cover. But what we're trying to do is really just show you an example of the two main categories. And I bet if you put all your bubbles on a page, you could probably break them out into two buckets as well. But really, when it comes to the data center, there's very few customers that say they want to spend a lot of time on those tasks that are in the left-hand side. They don't want to be in the business of building infrastructure, and there's not a lot of differentiated value to building it and spending so much time on managing it. So you really want to be able to consume the infrastructure, not have to think about it, not have to manage it, so that you have a simpler, more rapid, more agile consumption of the infrastructure, and you can spend time on the higher value tasks. All of this is pretty straightforward so far. So that's one thing, right? How do you consume the infrastructure? You want to spend time on the building side of the infrastructure, and there are customers that are set up to be very, very good at that, and that's their operational model. Most customers are on the consuming infrastructure side of the house. But what else drives value? First, there's optimized IT operations. The automation of operations has to happen as the data center equipment, capacity, the complexity all grow. Automation is table stakes. It's all about the ease and speed that you provision, deliver, and manage those resources that can make or break your transformation projects and impact the entire value chain. The second is cloud. Everyone sees the value in public cloud as a resource. There's a lot of value there. Most organizations use more than one. You're part of a VMAG community, you know all of this. But the islands of clouds that are each managed separately is inefficient and adds to that concept of IT complexity. And in fact, half of the organizations worldwide have an executive mandate to support hybrid cloud environments, according to IDC. And what we're seeing is that the majority of customers see value both in data center and public cloud, and they want to pull their operations there together. And to drive more value from cloud, IT has to embrace it not as a destination, but more of it as an operating model across a hybrid environment. And that's going to require common virtualized containerized infrastructure and a common operating experience. And lastly, there's workloads. Transformation is about innovation with new business processes, new transactional and analytical workloads, and getting the most value from these workloads are going to require new levels of performance, scalability, resiliency, efficiency, all of that. And that's our job to innovate, to ensure that we're staying ahead of the demands of our customers to be able to provide all of that to you with modern infrastructure. So with easy consumption being super important to IT, think all workloads are going to want to go and remain in the cloud. And I already sort of set up this concept that we know that's not the case. Even though public cloud continues to grow exponentially and there are use cases for public cloud, the issue is that not all workloads are right for the cloud. ESG actually did a poll around 1,200 different organizations and found that 77% of them actually have repatriated their mission critical workloads from public cloud back to their data centers. So why did this happen? You can see on the chart, hopefully it's not too small. Some of you said the poll was too small, so hopefully you can see the chart on here clearly that the top reasons for coming back on-prem with your cloud are cost and security. That's probably not a surprise to you, but there's also limited access to new technologies in the cloud, and that's really important for supporting workload variability. So looking a little deeper at how cloud is consumed, and then we'll compare it to a modernized data center consumption. Infrastructure as a service, just getting the hypervisor, compute, networking, storage as a combined resource that you need is the complete responsibility of the vendor. The only thing that you care about is running your workload on top of it. You don't have to think about the engineering, the building of the stack, managing, expanding new hardware, patching it, anything. You just ask for the services and you get it. And that's what the cloud vendor is responsible for so that you can focus on your workload, which is the thing that adds value. But cloud doesn't meet all the requirements. We're talking about what we like to call the laws of physics, the laws of economics, and the laws of the land. So to understand what we mean by this a little bit more, let's compare to modernized data centers. It's actually pretty simple. Modern data centers are built on integrated systems, that is, converged and hyperconverged systems that are designed to unlock the cloud operation model on premises. So what's the same? You get infrastructure as a service, so you can still focus on the workloads, and the vendor's responsible for the whole infrastructure and its lifecycle, not you. But what's different is the laws. You notice the check marks turn to green here, right? So the laws of physics are really around data gravity, meaning there's a performance barrier to running applications and analytics in the cloud for large data sets that are stored on premises and vice versa. So certain business applications and analytics have to run closer to the data center systems to optimize the performance. That's laws of physics. In terms of laws of economics, we saw one of the biggest reasons for repatriating is because of cost. The cost of storing large data sets to public cloud is expensive, and then ingress and egress costs are also a barrier, hard to predict, and can grow exponentially. So that's the laws of economics, and then the laws of the land. So security, in particular, there are a lot of regulatory requirements and more regulatory requirements around the world around data security, and trying to meet those strict recovery objectives are harder to do in the public cloud. So that's why organizations are repatriating mission critical workloads from public cloud. So now that I sort of introduced this point of view around the laws, I want to pause for a second and take a second poll. Nick, if you won't mind putting that up. So of the laws, which has impacted your organization the most? I bet this is going to line up with the survey we did earlier, but it'll be interesting to see. Okay, so yes, you guys agree with the study that we showed earlier. The majority of the reason is the cost, but there's also the data density and the security and regulatory considerations. So thank you for playing along. Okay, so let's talk more about that modern infrastructure. At the highest level, well, first we're going to talk about your infrastructure outcomes. What are your desired outcomes and how they're probably more similar than you might think. At the highest level, we find there's two overarching desired infrastructure outcomes. One is a modernized data center that's based on technology that can support workloads for digital transformation and automation, enabling operations to focus on consuming versus building and maintaining that infrastructure. The second is a hybrid cloud acceleration. So getting to hybrid cloud faster, and that's based on a consistent virtualized infrastructure and a consistent cloud operating model across cloud and data centers. So with integrated systems for an on-premises cloud operating model, you can achieve both in the same infrastructure. That's the point we're trying to make here. Okay, so to achieve both, we're talking again about integrated systems infrastructure, and it really has 5 main attributes that are at the core. The first is a full technology stack that's engineered from the top of the stack to the bottom for complete harmony between hardware and software. The second is a full stack manufactured as a system to simplify deployment and speed time to value, and that allows you to generate more value from your investment faster. The third is a system that automates everything from deployment to expanding and upgrading to lifecycle management to how you consume that allows you to inject more agility into your organization. The fourth is a single point of support for the entire stack of hardware and software to give you additional peace of mind. And then lastly, we keep the whole stack lifecycle managed throughout the lifecycle, again with automation to help remove risk and get you moving faster. So altogether, these are the 5 attributes that allow you to move into that column of tasks that are more associated with consuming infrastructure, because you're offloading that building part with assurance of these sort of 5 attributes and steps to us. It's based on modern technology stack and gives you the cost, security, performance advantages with workload variability. So kind of showing you how the integrated systems, you see sort of the 5 attributes around the outside of the circle that continuously grow. The first is that we support physical, virtualized, and containerized environments for workloads. We also support whatever the operating system is that the workload requires. And then last but not least, the type of application workload that's needed, whether it's transactional, analytics, database, structured, or unstructured. So all in all, we have the ability to support the environment that's needed, operating this system that's needed, the application workloads that are needed. And the outcomes that are experienced are not only modernization, but also that hybrid cloud operations experience and shift focus from maintaining infrastructure to driving value. So our customers are evidence that we are driving value. So I wanted to take a little bit of time to share with you some high-level hero numbers are on the slide. Those are based on some IDC studies that we have and that we can share with you both across converged and hyperconverged. But what makes it even more real for me and hopefully for you is to share some actual customer anecdotes and stories about how they're able to spend more time for innovation, deliver higher workload availability performance, deploy new applications, and lower their operating costs so that their return on investment is a lot faster. The first is an international real-time manufacturing software as a service provider. They process billions of transactions a day, and they needed to modernize its 4 production and disaster recovery sites so they could lower risk, keep up with their double-digit growth, which is a great problem to have in business, and maintain their customer satisfaction levels. So they decided to invest and modernize their production and DR sites, and the results are good. Obviously, that's why I'm sharing them with you. They had a high customer satisfaction rate with a 97% contract renewal rate. They had better than anticipated data compression ratios that lowered their infrastructure costs and made them more competitive. And they had 0 interruption for processing more than 7 billion customer transactions per day. 0 interruption. So that's pretty impressive. Their cloud operations manager said that they'd freed up more engineering time and allowed them to focus on monitoring and forecasting and some of those intelligence tasks that help provide a better environment to their customers. And the other example is a major home improvement retailer whose aging infrastructure actually went down on Black Friday. That's a bad thing if you're in retail. So the outage actually froze their order management system and sales at 2,000 stores across North America, and they lost $23 million in a single day. That's bad. What they did was modernize their core data center with Dell Technologies, and a year and a half into production, they've had 0 unplanned downtime, and they also had a benefit of saving 75% in data center space and power savings. So also another great outcome with our CI and HCI solutions. The next step for that customer is modernizing all of their stores as resilient mini data centers, and they're going to push out new containerized applications for intelligent enterprise operations and optimizing their in-store customer experience. So that sort of unlocks the ability of the role IT can play if you get the infrastructure modernized. It's pretty exciting. Okay, so we talked about like integrated systems, what's under that. We have converged and hyperconverged offerings. So I'm going to get a little bit more into the specifics of the systems. But first, really, based on the customer's technical and operational preferences, we have the right choices. That's the genesis of this slide. From a workload perspective, do you need specialized data services for both virtualized and non-virtualized workloads? Or are you looking at how to optimize for virtualized workloads specifically? In terms of operational model, do you prefer to have traditional or automated management across a 3-tier integrated stack of storage, compute, networking, or do you prefer to collapse operations with a consolidated approach with lifecycle automation across a more software-defined integrated stack? And then from a consumption perspective, are you looking mostly for a core data center option with the ability to then consume it either as traditional infrastructure or with cloud-like consumption? Or are you looking for consistency that extends across core and now to the edge and cloud, all with cloud-like consumption option? So it's really the answers to these questions and the priority that you place on each one of them that lands you on the right choice of our best-in-class leading CI and HCI portfolio. So now let's look at each individually. 10 years ago, a whole decade, we actually started the converged infrastructure revolution, and we engineered an entire data center technology stack together, offered it to customers as a turnkey system with a single call support, and that was our CI solution, vBlock at the time, now VxBlock. We continue to be the industry leader in CI, and today we have 2 options. These both have all-in-one 3-tier architecture of server storage arrays with data protection and networking, plus VMware virtualization. VxBlock 1000 is the 5th generation CI system based on Dell and Cisco components, and Power One is our newest generation based on all the latest Dell Technologies Power branded components and is highly automated. So as I mentioned before, CI is for users who prefer 3-tier architecture because it's an operational preference or because it meets a specific workload requirement. For hyperconverged, it's no secret we're also the leader in hyperconverged systems. Our portfolio is all built on leading PowerEdge server platforms, and we have choices based on hyperconverged and software-defined storage software stack alignment and level of integration, leading with VMware, of course. For customers that are standardized in a VMware environment and looking for the fastest possible IT outcomes, the best option continues to be VxRail, and that's whether it's deployed as appliances or fully integrated racks with the option to include networking and the option of core VMware HCI with vSAN, or as a full cloud stack as Dell Technologies Cloud Platform with VCF on VxRail. So I want to focus a bit more today, knowing my audience, on our leading HCI solution, which is VxRail. Okay, so VxRail enables business innovation, it simplifies operations for IT staff, and streamlines transition to private and hybrid cloud through automation, simplified agility, and full lifecycle management. VxRail continues to be the only jointly engineered HCI system, you've heard this before, with VMware for VMware environments designed to enhance the VMware native experience, which is already leading edge and market leading. VxRail, the turnkey experience starts with the full stack integration that I talked about from the 5 attributes in terms of control from the top to the bottom, hardware and software all working together. For a consistent, deeply integrated VMware environment, you're not going to find tighter integration with VMware anywhere else. VxRail goes even further in that enhancement of the VMware native experience comes from the VxRail HCI system software, which is VxRail IP that's unique to VxRail customers, and it simplifies and streamlines operations for any workload across core edge and cloud that you're running VxRail on. So what VxRail does is automate deployments for day zero, deliver the complete single-click automated full-stack LCM that keeps infrastructure in what we call continuously valid states for all the other days. It also enables non-disruptive scale, including the ability to add mixed node configurations and even next-gen nodes to a cluster. And we continuously evolve and enhance the APIs that are publicly available to enable automation and facilitate key upstream and downstream integration points and expanding the ecosystem. An example I always like to use of the ecosystem connector concept is Dell EMC Smart Fabric Services, so we can automate the network fabric deployments within VxRail if you're using Dell EMC networking. And as always, a single point of support. For customers who are looking for a hybrid cloud, we talked a lot about cloud today. I'm sure you're all aware of VCF on VxRail. It's also known as the Dell Technologies Cloud Platform, and it's the only infrastructure with full stack integration, automated lifecycle management, and is what we like to call future-proof for next-gen VMware technologies in a complete seamless user experience. So there's from day one, VxRail has been a catalyst for data center modernization. We're now expanding into hybrid cloud, but there's really three main design principles that we like to say have been at the core of VxRail since the beginning. First is a fully curated experience through deployment, day-to-day operations, and upgrades. Also, full operational automation lets IT focus on higher value business tasks, and continuous enhancements to the VxRail HCI system software is what delivers that automation at scale and ongoing platform additions for customers to optimize, that allow customers to optimize their clusters for their workload requirements. We also have global active management that automatically keeps every cluster, regardless of their location, in a continuously validated state and ensures customers can predictively evolve and keep their infrastructure secure and optimized. So there's three elements: the curated experience. So we're really looking at how can we innovate around the VxRail HCI system software so that we can offer significant operational and cost benefits and make it as simple as possible, as tightly integrated with VMware as we can, and as automated as we can. The second is automation at scale, so allowing customers to manage individual clusters natively integrated into vCenter or through VxRail Manager, are now using a SaaS-based multi-cluster global management solution at scale. And then from a platform and workload perspective, whether customers are trying to accelerate data center modernization, or they're looking to extend HCI to harsh edge environments, or deploy an on-prem hybrid cloud, or even now create that developer-ready Kubernetes platform, VxRail has exploded to support a wide range of both traditional and cloud-native applications. All right, so then just closing kind of with the hero slide, if you will. VxRail, I think we all know, is a leader in the marketplace. It's also the poster child for better together. And the key point that I want you to take away is it's really about focusing on innovating around simplicity, scalability, and performance, and keeping a pace of innovation alongside customer demand that makes it really be a platform for the broadest range of use cases, really listening to our customers and making improvements and enhancements in every release that play around those core design principles. As validation, of the that we're on the right track. We see that we have over 8,600 customers to date. So if you're a VxRail customer, thank you. And we continue to grow at really rapid pace as compared to the market, and we believe it's because of the innovation we pour into the solution. All right, so just wrapping it up, the cloud operations experience that all of the integrated systems deliver, whether it's a converged solution or a hyperconverged solution, includes flexible consumption models that you would expect from public cloud. So we offer 3 main models. First is pay as you grow. So for environments with stable growth and workload utilization, the additional capacity is in place, activated, and purchased just in time. That's pay as you grow. When you have a more metered approach to processor memory and storage utilization, we have the pay as you use, which is the most cloud-like, and there's a ability to do an on-demand buffer that's deployed, and as you use that buffer, your payments rise and fall. And then lastly is pay as a service. So this is a large-scale data center utility payment solution. It includes metering and managed services for all or part of your infrastructure solution. And I also wanted to point out, specifically for the Dell Technologies Cloud Platform offer, which is VCF on VxRail, we now have new subscription offers as well. So with the subscription, you get a low monthly payment and the ability to get the infrastructure, which is VCF on VxRail, delivered within 14 days, and upgrades are available within 5 days. So that's one of the fastest in the industry. And you may be scratching your head and wondering how we could possibly do that. We do that because we predict where the demand is going to be, and we have fixed configuration of available nodes that are pre-staged, ready to go for you. And we continue to evolve based on customer demand on getting the latest and greatest features in there, and making sure that we're predicting where customers are going to want their configurations lined up. The standard sales motion is also in play, just a direct purchase for VCF on VxRail, and there you get the millions of configuration, full customized configurability for VCF on VxRail. Okay, so before we check out the chat for Q&A, we left plenty of time for Q&A, so hopefully you guys are thinking of questions that you're wondering about, that areas I didn't get into. We've got a lot of SMEs on the line to answer questions about any of our CI or HCI offers. But there's a couple major events coming up in particular that are no longer live and in person. There's some really cool virtual conferences that are coming up. So curious to see what you guys' plans are in terms of attending the virtual events coming up. Nick, I'm ready for the last poll. If VMworld isn't the top one, then I think the VMUG team might be disappointed. So I don't think you will disappoint. Okay, awesome. You didn't disappoint, and I am excited and looking forward to VMworld as well. We have some exciting announcements that we have lined up, so I look forward to engaging then. Dell Technologies World is right on the heels of that 3 weeks later, so we also have some exciting stuff planned for that. And it looks like a couple of you are also going to go to Splunk, so we will be in all of these, participating in all of these events. So I hope you've learned something new today. I just want to point out a couple assets that we did post for you in the handout section. There's the PDF copy of this presentation. And then the other thing is that there's a PDF in there that can show you how you can put a VxRail or a Power One augmented reality hologram in your pocket, take it wherever you go, just with your mobile device. So you can look inside the systems and really bring it to life through the augmented reality mobile application. And we have time for some questions. Let me just see what's in queue. Okay, so there's only a couple questions in here. One is related to RP for VM. And Nick, unfortunately, I thank you for asking the question, but I don't know this answer to your question on support for vSphere 7 and RP for VM, but we can certainly get an answer and follow up. And then Kent, would you just mind retyping your question again? And open to any others. Okay, we have a quieter crowd today. I don't see any other questions coming through the chat, Nick, so I think we are all set.
Perfect. Thank you, Shannon, for taking the time to speak with us today. As a reminder, today's raffle winner will be notified by Dell after this webcast. You will receive a follow-up email with an on-demand link from today's webcast, so keep an eye out for that. To find out more about the VMUG webcast program, please visit vmug.com and check out the education page. Please make sure to complete the short online evaluation that pops up as you exit the webcast and let us know how today's session went. And from all of us here at VMUG, thank you and have a great rest of your day.